This is another episode of Christopher Reads the Help Files. This is survey settings, about survey user settings. Before using the Autodesk Civil 3D survey features, review and modify the settings that define the survey user defaults, drawing settings, database settings, and equipment settings. Topics in this section include about survey user settings. Survey user settings are specific to a Windows user login account and affect only the survey features, not project or drawing data. About survey database settings. Survey database settings are specific to the survey features of an Autodesk Civil 3D survey database. To specify survey equipment properties, to change survey drawing units. About survey user settings. Survey user settings are specific to a Windows user login account and affect only the survey features, not project or drawing data. Specify the default settings for importing and exporting survey data and the display of interactive graphic components. Tips for working with settings. Default survey database settings can be set up and can then be used each time you create a new survey database. Survey database settings can be exported with a SDB set extension. Survey user settings can be exported to a *user_set file. You can create a SBD_set for imperial or metric survey database settings, or for use with specific coordinate zone. For use with, for specific coordinate zone. I think that's appropriate. Have everyone in your organization use the same path for survey user settings. But it's local. They can't use the same because everyone has their own computer. Topics in this section include a bunch of lists, and we'll go through each one of them. To specify the survey database defaults, click the settings for the survey database features. Step 1, click the survey tab, modify panel, up here, edit user settings. Hey, there it is. In the survey user settings dialog box, expand the survey database defaults property group. There it is. Under the survey database settings path, to specify the path to where the survey database settings files are located at. This path should be in a common location within an organization. Step 4. Under survey database settings, select a survey database settings file from the drop-down list. Oh, there's none in there. All files within SDB set extension are listed. The settings in this file are used whenever a new survey database is created by Autodesk Civil 3D. Step 5. Under Extended Properties, Definition Path, specify the path to where the extended properties definitions are located. This path should be a common location within an organization. Step 6. Under Extended Properties Definition, specify an extended properties definition file from the list. All files in the extended properties definition path that has an SDXDef extension is listed. To specify the current survey equipment database, specify the current equipment database, and equipment database path. The current equipment sets the values associated with a specific surveying instrument, such as the standard deviations associated with the measuring capabilities for the equipment. This information is used in various calculations, including least squares. Step 1. Click the Survey tab, Modify panel, and edit user settings. Step 2. In the Survey User Settings dialog box, expand the Equipment Defaults property group. So there. Under the equipment database path, enter the path for the survey equipment or databases, or equipment databases, or click the Find to browse to the folder. This is the path where all new equipment databases are stored. Step 4. Under Current Equipment Database, select the current database from the drop-down list. The list of available databases is determined from the databases contained in the Equipment Databases collection in the Tool Space Survey tab. Step 5. Under Current Equipment, select the current equipment from the drop-down list. To specify the survey line work processing defaults, specify the default path for line work code set. A line work code set interprets the syntax of the field codes that are entered into the data collector by the survey field crew. Step 1. Click the Survey tab, Modify panel, Edit User Settings. Step 2. In the Survey User Settings dialog box, expand the Line Work Processing Defaults property group. Step 3. For line work code sets path, enter a path for the line work code or click the search or the browse button to browse to the folder. This is the path where all line work code set files are stored. Step 4. For processing line work during import, select the checkbox to process line work during the import. Line work can also be processed after the import is completed. Important. In the import settings, clear the process line work checkbox if you are importing the following: FBK files created from the survey data collection link application, because line work code set definitions may not be recognized. However, the figure commands created using the survey data collection link are recognized. Fieldbook files that were created in Autodesk Land Desktop or in a previous version of Autodesk Civil 3D. Using the process line work command on these files may create duplicate and erroneous figures. Step 5. For the current line work code set, select a line work code set from the list. Step 6. For the process line work sequence, select one of the following from the list: by import order or by point number. By point order processes points in the order which they were imported. Point names are always processed by import order. By point number processes points sequentially by point number in ascending order only. To specify the survey figure prefix database. Figure prefixes enable you to determine the layer that a figure is drawn on, how a figure is stylized, and whether figures are created as break lines and lot lines. When figures are imported or created, they are matched based on their names and the prefix names. All figures with a specific prefix are assigned the properties of the prefix. Step 1. Click the Survey tab, Modify panel, and edit User Settings. Step 2. In the Survey User Settings dialog box, expand the Figure Defaults property group. For Figure Prefix Database path, enter the path for the Figure Prefix Database or click the Browse button to browse to the folder. This is the path where all new Figure Prefix databases are stored. Step 4. For current Figure Prefix database, select the current database from the drop-down list. The list of available databases is determined from the databases contained within the Figure Prefix Database collection on the Tool Space Survey tab. So it looks like they're missing figure, style, and figure layer. All right, submit feedback. To specify external survey editor settings, Specify whether to use an external editor for displaying analysis input and output and for editing fieldbook and batch files. Step 1. Click the Survey tab. Modify panel. Edit user settings. Step 2. In the Survey user settings dialog box, expand the miscellaneous properties group. Step 3. For use external editor, select the checkbox to use an external editor. Note, if you do not specify to use an external editor, the default editor specified in the AutoCAD options dialog box is used. Step 4. For external editor, enter the path and name for the editor and click Browse to browse to the editor. Now it's Notepad++. Awesome. And then there's no preview vertical exaggeration. To specify the survey interactive graphics settings, use interactive graphics settings to control the display of survey components during import and entry of survey data. Note, the interactive graphics are temporary. Examples of survey interactive graphics. Note, using interactive graphics when you are importing a fieldbook file significantly slows the import process. Step 1. Click Survey tab. Modify panel, and edit user settings. Step 2. In the Survey User Settings dialog box, expand the Interactive Graphics properties group. Step 3. Select the checkboxes for the interactive graphics that you want to display. So there's a bunch of them. For descriptions of interactive graphics components, see Survey User Settings dialog box. Step 4. Optionally, to change the colors of the components, click the color swatch to open the Select Color dialog box, from which you can select a color. Ooh, awesome. And there it is. Cool. So go back. To specify survey import defaults, specify the import defaults properties for importing a fieldbook or batch files into the selected project network. Step 1. Click the Survey tab, Modify panel, and edit user settings. Step 2. In the Survey User Settings dialog box, expand the Import Defaults Properties group. Step 3. Select the checkboxes for the defaults that you want to enable. For descriptions of the import defaults, see Survey User Settings dialog box. Step 4. Optionally, for default figure site property, enter a site name. Hey, there's the site name. If the site doesn't exist, if the site does exist in the current drawing, it is created, or if it exists, it is used. If the site does exist in the current drawing. Note, the site is used if the lot line property for the figure is true and the site property for the figure is not specified. About survey tolerance errors in the event viewer. Use the event viewer to review and edit tolerance errors. If you have specified display tolerance errors in the event viewer, In the Survey User Settings dialog box, and if the network contains tolerance errors, the following items are displayed the event viewer at the completion of a survey import command. The following items are displayed Note, you can also run the report tolerance error command from the right-click context menu on the network's collection or an individual network. Column and description. Tree tab displays the tolerance error and the associated network. Type displays the tolerance error as a warning using the warning icon. Date displays the system date of the event. Time displays the system time of the event. Source displays the name of the network that contains the tolerance error. User display the Windows user login. Description displays the point ID and the tolerance error type. More information. Click Zoom to zoom to the tolerance error in the drawing. Action. Click Browse to display the observations editor. The observation with tolerance error is highlighted. Note, the survey database must be open to use the Browse to link. To report survey tolerance errors. Display tolerance errors in the event viewer at the completion of survey data, import or run the command from the network collection or an individual network on the survey tab. Tolerance errors are based on the values you specify in the survey database settings dialog box. At the completion of importing survey data into the survey database, tolerance errors in the network that exceed these values can be displayed as events in the event viewer. In the survey user settings dialog box, import defaults, specify yes for display tolerance errors in event viewer. The report tolerance error command can be run anytime from the right-click context menu on the network's collection or an individual network. You can override the default settings in the import re-import surveyland XML data dialog box and re-import fieldbook dialog box. To report tolerance errors at the completion of importing survey data, Step 1. Click the Survey tab, Modify panel, and edit user settings. Step 2. In the Survey User Settings dialog box, under Import Defaults, specify yes to display tolerance errors in Event Viewer. The Event Viewer is displayed at the completion of any import function if the data contains tolerance errors. To report tolerance errors, on the Survey tab in Toolspace, right-click the network's collection or name network and choose Report Tolerance Errors. About Survey Export Defaults. Use the export defaults to specify the properties for exporting survey data to a fieldbook file. Figure export conditions and formats. When you select the export figures with network property, the format of the figure data exported to the fieldbook is dependent on the conditions of the survey data as shown in the following. Note, for more information about the syntax in the following sections, see the figure commands. If the figure vertex has a point number, then the vertex is defined by referencing the point in the fieldbook file. BEG, figure name, PT, point ID. Then the following lines are added to the fieldbook file. NESS, point ID, northeast elevation description. Begin, figure name, point ID. Then the following line is added to the fieldbook file defining the figure vertex. Figure NE, northeast. If the figure segment is a curve, then the curve segment is defined by using the XCZD bulb command. The bulb parameter is used when the delta angle for the curve is greater than 180 degrees. If both ends of the curve segment reference point IDs, then the following format is output. XCZD, AZ, point ID, D, point ID. Otherwise, the following format is output: XC, ZD, azimuth, and distance. Point, export, conditions, and format. If you select the export point identifier property for each figure vertex, the following formats are output to the fieldbook file. If the figure vertex has a point ID, then the following lines are added to the fieldbook file: begin, figure name, point ID. If the vertex does not reference a point ID, then the following lines are added to the fieldbook file: begin, figure name, figure NE, northeast. If export point identifiers properties is not selected, the following lines are added to the fieldbook file: begin, figure name, figure NE, northeast. If the figure segment is a curve, then the curve segment is defined using the XCZD bulb command. The bulb parameter is used when the delta angle for the curve is greater than 180 degrees. If both ends of the curve segment reference point numbers, and if this checkbox is selected, then the following format is output: XZZD, AZ, point ID, D, point ID. Otherwise, the following format is output: XC, ZD, azimuth, and distance. When the export point data is enabled for each figure vertex that references a point ID, the following format is output to the fieldbook prior to the selection, defining the figures: NE, SS, point ID, northeast, elevation description. To specify survey export defaults, click the Survey tab, Modify panel, Edit User Settings. In the Survey User Settings dialog box, expand the Export Defaults property group. Select the checkboxes for the defaults that you want to enable. For the descriptions of the properties, see the Survey User Settings dialog box. To specify survey preview display behavior, use the Network Preview, Setup Preview, and Figure Preview settings to specify the preview properties when an item is selected in the Toolspace Survey tab. Note, the previews use the color set by the interactive graphic settings. Step 1. Click the Survey tab, Modify panel, Edit User Settings. Step 2. In the Survey User Settings dialog box, expand the Miscellaneous property group and edit the Preview vertical exaggeration. Hey, there's that thing that I wrote on the last one. Step 3. In the Survey User Settings dialog box, expand the Network Preview, Setup Preview, and Figure Preview property groups. Step 4. Select the checkboxes for the components that you want to display in the previews. Cool. To import and export survey user settings, the user settings can be exported to a user settings file and subsequently imported. To import user settings, step 1, click the Survey tab, Modify panel, and edit user settings. In the Survey User Settings dialog box, click the button to import. Step 3, in the Open dialog box, browse to the path where the settings file is located and select it. Step 4, click Open. The Survey User Settings dialog box is populated with the settings from the file. To export user settings, click the Survey tab, Modify panel, and edit user settings. Step 2, in the Survey User Settings dialog box, click the Export button. Step 3, in the Save As dialog box, browse to the path where you want to save the settings file and enter a name and click Save. And so this concludes Christopher reads the help files, survey settings, about survey settings user defaults.